Hey folks, welcome to Between Awesome and Disaster. This is your host, Will Carey. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate that you're here, and I'm here as well. This episode is going to be a fun one. Before we get into the meat of today's show, the Patreon for the podcast has officially launched. You can check it out at patreon.com/awesomedisaster. There's a couple of different reward tiers that are available. All of the stuff that I post on Patreon is exclusive to people who subscribe there. I'm not going to be putting episodes of Between Awesome and Disaster behind a paywall. I don't want to get in the habit of like trying to elicit donations by monetizing this show behind a paywall. So because I appreciate that people listen, and I want to do something extra for people that want to support me financially. So thank you guys for being here. And if you want to, again, it's patreon.com/awesomedisaster. Even if you can't contribute, which I understand completely, please feel free to give that a share or a tweet. Those are little things that kind of help me out. So thank you very much for that. If you go to the Twitter account for the podcast at AwesomeDPod, you'll see a pinned tweet. If you can give that a favor, a like, or a retweet, because I think fave and likes are the same now. I'd appreciate that as well. And I'm looking forward to expanding my horizons and expressing myself creatively on that platform as well, doing some bonus stuff there. So thank you guys again for checking that out. On the show today is comedian Greg Stone. Greg Stone's a comic in New York. He has an album that you can get on iTunes, wherever you get your comedy albums, called The Amazing Greg Stone. I actually went to the album recording for that and had a great time, so I would definitely recommend you check that out. Greg's also, he was also a writer for Michelle Wolf's Netflix show The Break, which is still on Netflix. It ended after one season, but it is still available. And he also contributed to her monologue at the White House Correspondence dinner, which was in the news, which blows my mind still that I know people, and I can't say Michelle. I have seen Michelle. I haven't seen Michelle Wolf in a number of years, but it blows my mind. And I talk about this with Greg. I've talked about this with other people. The fact that people I know are now being called out by name by the President of the United States. Kind of surreal to think that this is the path that my life has led to me being able to say that. But Greg is a hilarious comic. He's a very good writer, and we talk a lot of shop in this one because he does long form storytelling, kind of stand up comedy, but not storytelling in the vein of The Moth or theatrical storytelling shows. But he's the kind of comic that I really respect and I look up to. So I had some questions for him, and we talk a lot about that in the show. And this is a real fun one. If you are into comedy or interested in doing comedy, I feel like there's some useful information to glean here. And I hope you guys check it out. If you enjoyed the show, we are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. If you want to leave us a review or subscribe on any of those platforms, other little things that help the show grow and blossom so that I can carve out my own little corner of the internet here with people that want to listen to me talk about what's on my mind with other people. So thank you guys for being here. You can follow me on Twitter at Comic Will Carey, and let's go to my chat with Greg Stone.
Recording, or is we
yeah we're recording.
Okay.
I accidentally had the metronome on, like it, because I also record music on this. Also.
Nice,
I've written a couple podcast theme songs for people, so it sounds really good for that as well.
Sweet.
I just once I figured out how to podcast, I really found I enjoyed it quite a bit. I know it's kind of it's easy to make fun of like the comedians having a podcast thing, but I really do.
If you don't
get
have
a lot of value out of it.
But if you, it's like stupid to say, but if you are a comedian and you don't have a podcast, what are you doing? Unfortunately, it's like a website now. That's how people are going to get to know you. That's how you're going to get fans. Unless, like, well, especially, I'm more of a story. I'm more of a vulnerable story guy. I try to be like, I try to just. Yeah. I'm not a joke. I'm not like a joke guy or like a one-liner guy.
Sure.
So I need a podcast where I can get out there and people could fall in love with me, so they'll come to shows. That's how you see me. I mean, like that's what are you doing? Like, how else are you getting fans? I don't understand. I mean, I know it sounds crazy. Sure there are other ways, but at my level, I don't know what you're like. I don't know another way to be in touch with fans other than podcasting.
I think so, because I feel like, especially for your style, which is so, I think, kind of rooted in like people like you, and then they'll follow, give you the like rope for a longer story or what have you.
Yeah.
And I feel like podcast is where you get to like really know who somebody really is, because it's a little bit more of an informal, like guard down sort of style of entertainment is what I think. And I think, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I don't have my pulse on what comedy fans feel nowadays, but I feel like most comedy fans are savvy enough to know that the stand-up comedian stage persona may not 100% be who that person really is.
Mm-hmm.
So if you listen to somebody's podcast, you get more of an idea of who they are.
Yeah.
And then also, it's because if you're doing long-form stuff, it's a great way to kind of work that out. That's something I wanted to ask you about since I've got you here. Because you are more of a long-form storyteller kind of comedian, but not in like the moth performance art.
Yeah. No, I hate when comedians
kind
say,
of way.
I hate whenever a comedian tells me I'm a storyteller, I go, well, you're not a comedian. I get like really mad because it's bullshit. Because storytelling is this excuse to write less punchlines.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in that. I mean, every sentence needs to have a punchline. It's like it's set up, punch, but I just string a line together. I mean, everybody's telling stories. That's what we're doing. Unless you're fucking, even Mitch Hedberg was telling you a story, or Stephen Wright, maybe not a storyteller, but
yeah.
You listen to, it's just chunks. They're all just chunks, but jokes all within a series. I try, but storytelling usually to me is like, it's like they do like this like vulnerable thing, and that doesn't. Sometimes there's no punchline at the end, or it buys them time without getting punched. I don't believe in that. I mean, I have some stories that are missing some punchlines in the middle, but that's just from laziness.
Right.
But I know that they're not there, and I'm currently trying to make them better. I just don't like the classic like, oh, I can kill 10 minutes by just telling this story. And it's like, no, it's fucking get your shit together, man.
I agree. And I love that. I do enjoy that style as well. And I've seen some very like, moving, pieces like that. But every time, the couple times I've done the moth and haven't won, but I've killed the room.
Sure.
I've always like, well, I can do more. I'm better at this than you.
Yeah.
I can be entertaining on the way to something emotionally devastating that happened to me. Also, that is a little bit of a thing I wish people gave credit for, because to me it's the difference between being a stand-up comic and being a theater performer, which I think is also valid.
Yeah.
But it's different from being a comedian. So I was curious to you, how do you, when you're doing like, I don't know, say if you're like on the road doing like a comedy club somewhere. And
wait, before we move on, can I just say one more thing about storytelling?
Oh, 100%.
So sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, well, my thing with those guys, with the moth guys that gets me, I love storytelling. I actually, in its own right, I do love a story, but I love good storytelling. I love people who are like, whatever, but I used to see so many people who are like, this is my story that happened to me. And, well, then you're lucky. This thing happened to you, and you're telling me it. I like the person who works. I like the person who goes, this is a thing that happened to me, but you might not necessarily have thought to talk about this on stage. Like if a Nate Bargatze story to me is
so fucking
he's
funny.
Unbelievable, but he's an amazing writer. So he's a guy who that might happen to you, and you might not even realize that it's funny enough. It's the perspective that I love. For him to look at this, like he does a great bit about like milk, or it's what's like fucking with milk.
Oh, I don't.
With cream. The story is he goes with cream, right? And he goes, I'll have coffee with cream, and the lady pours him a glass of coffee with whipped cream on it. that would happen to you or me. And we would go, that's a silly thing, and you move on. It's a 6-minute bit in his special or something like that. And it's amazing. And that's what I love about a comedian who can take a story of something mundane and show you the intricacies, as opposed to going to like some of these storytellers you'll see, and they'll be like, they're like, my dad shot my mother. And I'm like, yeah, okay, you're lucky that you got that great story. You're lucky that your dad shot your mother, because now you have this thing that you had to do no work for. So that's my problem with the storytelling versus the joke stories, as per se. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if you're following.
No. I follow exactly what you're saying. It's a matter of how do you get a reaction from a crowd. So there is craft and again, craft and technique into pulling laughs out of the mundanity of getting a coffee with whipped cream on it.
Yes.
And like pulling out there's like, you could do the thing with language, like talk about coffee in general that's served like that. Whereas if you have a tragic story and then you just go up and repeat the tragic thing that happened, you're more or less working as a megaphone for your own experience.
And there's not as much work. It's not. Put the work in. Like put the work in, make it funny and great, and I'm sure a lot of these guys do, because I've seen great stories where you watch them and you're like, I'm besides. Not an actually stand-up comedian I'm talking about, but Mike DiStefano had that story about going through this stuff with his wife and how he had the cancer and all that. And that wasn't just this thing that happened to him. Like, he pulls out the emotion, he walks you through it. It's an amazing story. So that, I'm not saying there's a type of person I don't like. I'm saying I guess I am. I'm not shitting on moth people. I'm just saying.
No. I'm understanding.
There are lazy storytellers.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah,
I agree with you, but it doesn't come off as lazy the same way like a lazy open mic stand-up comedian feels the same way. That's kind of
that's worse in its own way. I don't know really what I'm saying, but yeah.
I feel like we're not expressing ourselves clearly, but we are understanding each other perfectly.
Yes,
I think is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So what was your question? I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all good. So my question was, when you're doing these long form bits, and you're like, I don't know, say you're like at the Funny Bone or something somewhere in Middle America, and you're doing like second like late show, and like you're in like a nightclub, comedy club kind of setting. I always have a hard time giving the audience credit that I'm going to be able to do something long like that.
Yeah.
And have it work. What have you found, like, in performing longer bits or stories in those environments? What's like the technique you found that to really make that hit?
One, I try not to judge crowds a lot, because every time I've judged a crowd, it's gone exactly the way I thought it would, which isn't necessarily meaning I'm right. It means that I put on them and made them act the way I thought they were going to act. So when you don't judge them and you say fuck it, like I did, and this is like, I was just in Salt Lake City. I'm working a giant chunk on religion, and I was in Salt Lake City. It's a big Mormon country, right? And I was like, oh, they're going to hate religion stuff because they're all kind of religious. Even like they're just all lower levels of religion. Like there's super Mormons, and then there's just people who had Mormons in their family, and then whatever. So
yeah.
But the material, that's the first weekend I ever did where I realized that this material was really working. And it was because I was like, well, no, man. Like, if you make it funny enough, people will come on board. You don't have to be, that Patrice thing is like, you don't have to be right. You just have to be funny. I don't have to. I'm not trying to get you to be an atheist. I'm just trying to get you to see what I see, and then laugh at that or laugh at me. I don't really care. But to answer your question, actually, about, I think you're asking me like, to get further into like how I work a story, right? So the way I work those is I try to write the first big laugh. Right. So I have let's say I have a 6-minute story. Like, oh, Jesus, this is gonna be long. Right. I just get to the first laugh. Right. So the first big laugh might be 3 or 4 sentences. Right. And then that should live on its own. So I just work that part. So like, let's say I'm telling a story about how I fucking shit my pants in a bodega. Right. Fine. Whatever. Right. So then the first joke, let's say, is about walking into the bodega and the cashier is a handicapped person, right? So just get to that first handicapped person joke, This is also making this all up. I don't have a joke about shitting my pants with a handicapped cashier. But get to that first line. Get that first line, and then that'll kill or do well. You get that to be the big laugh, and then go for the second part, right? And I write them in almost like segments so that they can they can stand alone.
Right.
And then when they're all working, I tend to pull them back together so that they can tell the long story, if that makes sense.
No, totally. You're basically instead of trying to like pole vault over a ditch of flaming tires, you're like building platforms over the tires that you can
and
do
so
bit by bit.
So and just to like even clarify a little more is like, so let's say the joke is that I went to this bodega and shit my pants, right? So the first joke I'll do will be went to the bodega, shit my pants. Right now it's time to make this 6 minutes. So then I put shit my pants at the end, and then I throw in the line about the handicapped cashier, right? And then it's like, oh, well, the coffee was cold, right? Okay, so that's another. Then I work on cold coffee joke and throw that in. So now we're just going A to B to C, but the first original segment of that was A, C. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So like that's how I'll write usually stories, and then just keep filling in the middle.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's and someone else I think is also very good at that. I was thinking about storytelling earlier, and as far as like in nightclub context, is Christopher Titus.
Oh, I've worked with him a billion times.
I love him. I would love to have him on. I find him very funny.
Yeah.
Because he's a guy. He's again I think doing like almost like he's doing like he's doing like a theater piece.
He's doing his own thing.
But he's like, but it's like, to borrow a Marin expression, it's like wrapped around a bat, kind of. But so you've worked with him?
Yeah, I opened for him once at Levity Live, and then he liked me and he was coming back. He said, hey, can we get the guy who was here last year? And then I think I worked with him 3 times. And
cool.
Yeah, like he's great. Like he's always been very nice to me. And I wanted to hate him when I first started because I saw what he was doing, and I was like, who's this guy? He's not wearing a microphone. He's got like an earpiece kind of. I was like, what is this shit, right? And I was like, I wanted to hate him. But I mean, it's like really enjoyable. He's doing his own thing. It's like I think he's kind of doing his own thing. It's what I was kind of shitting on at the beginning of this podcast, but he does it right. Like he makes it funny and interesting and compelling, and it's great. I actually enjoy watching him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's great, and I love watching you, man. I went to your album recording at the Creek.
That was a fucking nightmare.
I wanted to. Okay, so this is. I was trying to ask about this. I couldn't get Liz to respond to me either. So I went to the early show.
Yeah.
Which was great, and I think you really killed it. I heard the second show went a little nuts.
Yeah. So it's weird. So between the two, I think we got. Actually, I don't want to shit talk my album because I am proud of it, and I think we did. But I came out of this album. I was writing on a TV show, and we had set the date before I got the job writing. So I wasn't on the road as much as I wanted to. But the material I've been doing for a long time, so I was like, I got it. So it's coming out a little shaky, a little rusty, but I had gotten like 3 or 4 weekends of work before recording it, so I think it was enough to tighten it up a little bit. And then we get into the show. We did 2 shows at the Creek, which is good because I love the Creek because I started there, and it's just like I felt comfortable there. Bad news is no security. There's no security.
Yeah.
So that's not a thing I thought would be an issue until, of course, it's an issue.
Yeah.
So the first show was fine. Second show, I go on stage and I'm doing this joke, and it's just like a simple setup joke to get into a joke. And I do a line where I say, I used to do Trump material. I don't do it anymore because it separates the room. So I just say my stepdad said, and then I do the material that way, and then people laugh, and then they realize it wasn't my stepdad, it was just whatever.
I remember that joke.
Yeah, something whatever.
It's a good joke.
So I go, so on the second show I go, oh, my stepdad, I was like, oh, I don't do Trump material anymore. And this lady goes, fuck Trump. And I went, oh. This is also the 3rd time she had heckled. The other 2 I just kind of talked over, ignored. Just ignored it.
Yep.
This could not be ignored. She screamed, fuck Trump. In the middle of the joke, everyone looked at her, and I went, fuck you. Like, what do you do? First of all, what stand are you taking? You're in the middle of Long Island City. You are in the heart of fucking liberal New York. Who do you think you're in the middle of a recording? I'm recording this. And then she was like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you got to shut the fuck up, lady. Like, what are you doing? Right? And then I don't remember exactly how it went down. Then she starts yelling back at me. And I was like, you got to get out. And she was like, I'm not going anywhere. I was like, you can get the fuck out of here. Then I'm like, so then I have to leave the stage because there's no security. So I'm leaving the stage with my microphone in her thing. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Then she goes, this is my boyfriend. Her boyfriend stands up. He's 6'8". And now there's 4, it's a whole row of people who are just hammered. And I'm like, I got to fight all of these people. And then I'm like, But what's great is that everybody there was there to support me. So then all of a sudden everyone started surrounding their life. So I started screaming. I did a lot. I started screaming, "Lock her up!" So we started to lock her up chant to kind of fucking throw her out. We're like, "Lock her up!" And then everyone kind of crowded, and they eventually left. But this was 9 minutes. So first I was like, well, this would be fun because it's kind of like a crazy little meltdown. But then it was so long, and I couldn't edit it in any way that it would make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't like get them out, totally make the entire room weird, and then start the joke again.
Yeah,
it's kind of.
So the crazy thing that happened is that I was like, oh, that would be a fun like extra thing to have. I didn't get to use it, but after the crowd was so like, man, this sucked to just have it on his album, that everyone fell in fucking line, and after everyone left, all of the rest of my material ended up being the material I ended up using on the album because the crowd, I think they were just like, yeah, that sucked. We're giving this guy 1,000% of our attention. And so I ended up using everything after that for the album. And before that was the first show.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was like oh God, it was a fucking nightmare. And it's funny because I've listened to it when I listened to the album when we had to edit it, and then I'm done. I can't listen to it anymore. Because it brings back this like, this joke, I could have did that joke better. I used this line better. I have other stuff, and so I'm a little annoyed. But I think, I mean, all my friends, and I send people like, hey, do I release this? Do I not? Is it good? And my best friend, Anthony DeVito, comedian. You know
oh yeah, I know Anthony.
Yeah, he was like, no, dude, man, it's great. You're just being too hard on yourself. So, and I whatever. I had good feedback, so I should not be talking about this because I feel like I should just be positive about it. But I just, that experience really just was like, fuck, what the fuck are we doing? Why the fuck did I do that?
Yeah, dude. That's just one of those like fucked up kind of things. Like when I was working the door at the Laughing Devil, which used to be around the corner from, I almost got into a fight with one of Rich Voss's hecklers, and the guy older guy tries to start a fight with three like Jersey bros, like obviously like heard him on Opie and Anthony or something like that. And I put my hands on his shoulders. He turns around, pushes me, grabs my shirt. I put my hands back because I'm like, okay, he's got to hit me first before I can punch it, before I can fight back.
Yeah.
But then Steve Hofstetter came down and got in between us, and I told him thank you when he did the show.
Yeah.
But it was just like, I was afraid to go into that club for like weeks after that.
Really?
Yeah, like it shook me so badly.
Yeah, that's the thing, because you're a big guy, but you are a soft guy.
Yeah,
I don't mean soft like hood. I mean like you're a soft, sweet guy. You're not a guy who I would imagine has a fun time throwing a punch.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
It's not what I'm looking to do, because once the switch flips, I just hulk out.
Of course.
I don't want to do that.
You can easily destroy somebody. What are you, 6'5"?
6'7".
You're 6'7".
Yeah,
you're big. You can grab someone and destroy them, but why? You don't have to.
Yeah.
I get that.
Don't want to do it. And the thing is also, like, on stage, I'm very like kind of, I don't have the persona where I could very easily switch into shut the fuck up, cunt.
Sure.
Kind of language, and then immediately go back into like, okay, here's a joke about the Black Keys.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Have you had other moments like that where you've had to like, you've really like gone after somebody and then had to like get the crowd back on your side?
Well, I would rather talk about the times I didn't get them back on my side. I feel like that's way more fun. So I used to do a joke. I used to call it, I think it's on the album, this is a joke about this cunt joke, which I was doing a show at a bar, and there's 9 people there. This woman, I was like talking about being fat. I was talking about losing weight. The lady goes, "You're still fat." And I was like, just hurting that day. I was just hurting that day. And I went, fuck you, you cunt. And the crowd lost it. They were like, whoa. And I went, they're all like yelling at me. And I was like, well, fuck you guys. You're all fucking cunts too. And then I start fucking cursing at everybody. I fucking lose it. And I go, what am I fucking doing? Oh, I got 2. I'm sorry. I got to do 2 of these. So then I leave. I call everyone a cunt. I leave. Get to the train, swipe my card, and went, nah, fuck this. Went back into the fucking, it was Alligator Bar. Went back into Alligator Bar where they were all sitting drinking. And I got in all of their faces. And I was sitting, and I was like, you know what you fucking did? And I just started screaming. They're like, who's this psycho? This happened to he left, swiped a Metro card, came back, started screaming, went back, and it was like, you just swiped. You have to. Then I had to sit by the turnstile
for like 7 minutes.
For like 7 minutes for the fucking unlimited to come back again. I lost it. Oh, it's like furious.
Oh my God, that's fucking beautiful, man.
Let me regale you with another, if you don't mind.
Of course, I love this shit.
I have a series of stories I like to call and they're only just friend stories of the last time I performed at that club. The last time I performed at it was what the fuck is it? It was it's the one by the Cellar, but it's not the Cellar. Not Broadway.
Greenwich Village Comedy Club? Yep.
Right, Greenwich Village Comedy Club, doing a guest spot, not being paid. Host brings me up. I go, is anybody here married? This lady from the bathroom comes running out. She goes, yeah, I'm married. Runs back to the front. And I was like, okay, all right, lady, relax, And I'm like, so how long are you married? And she was like, why the fuck do you care? And I was like, well, why did you answer if you want to act like this? And then she was like, just move on. You're not even funny. Move on. And I'm like, what is, like, it's one of those, belligerent things, right?
Right.
So then I'm like, okay, so I'm going to talk, right? And then I get into another joke, the setup of a joke. She goes, you're not funny. And I went, shut up, ugly. And then she went, and I went, not only are you ugly on the inside, you are ugly on the outside. You are fully ugly. You are fucking ugly, right? And then her husband goes, hey, man, you can't call my wife ugly. And I went, fuck you and fuck your ugly wife. I put the microphone back in the stand, walked out of the club, never went back. Now, see, I think usually the comedians, they're like, oh, I hit him with this bit. I don't do that anymore. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done with hey, I got you by being funny.
Right.
Fuck that. You're not paying me for this. I'm just gonna fucking hurt your feelings, and I'm gonna leave. I don't need to be here. You don't want to police your room? Don't police your room. But I'm not gonna come back to this club. 1 and 2. I'm not here to be. I think that when you got like, when she's like, you're not funny, I go, don't go to your job and suck your mother's dick or whatever. When you do that shit, then it just makes people think that heckling is
part of the
it makes the show better. And your show is, he's not doing a joke, I'll heckle him and he'll shit on me and I'm the martyr. And it's like, no, fuck you. You don't get to do this. You don't understand where I'm at in my life, that you can just every spot I'm doing. I'm not a guy people know. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I'm a hardworking comedian, and I do what I can, but I am not a guy that I'm not selling out rooms. I'm not selling places out.
Sure.
So every time I'm on stage, I am out there making the club know they can hire me. I'm going to do a great job. I'm going to be funny. It's like if I fuck up once, I'm not sure that's the last time I played that club, but that club's never going to have me back. You don't get to just tell people in the crowd, you don't get to say fuck you and fuck your ugly life and leave. So it's like, I can't be burning these bridges. But, so when you do that, when you heckle, I'm going to just tell you to shut the fuck up. Like, people should hate you in the room.
Yeah. No, well, that I was relating so hard to this because I don't have like super zany comeback lines either. Like, I'm just literally like, everything about your existence is flawed. Yeah. You are in error.
Yeah.
You are the problem.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that kind of shit. Because like, what it makes me think of while you were telling that story? Did you ever see that video? I think Bill Hicks is playing Chicago. Mm-hmm. And some woman, kind of like the same continuous spirit of that heckler and that guy's ugly wife, she just kind of goes in a you hear it in an accent, and she just goes, "You suck," and then you hear the crowd go, "Ooh," and then it's literally like watching a shark smell blood.
Yeah.
He just goes, "Get out! You should be flushed down the toilet, you fucking turd! You are everything wrong with society." And then he gets to the point where he just starts screaming and dancing like, "I'm drunk and I have a gun. I can do anything I want."
Yeah.
And then eventually he comes down, he sits down on the stool and is like, and is just like, "Oh, sorry, I had to see that." It's like, "Oh, Bill, are you working out stuff for your next Arsenio spot?" And then I think the longer version is he continues the show after that.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I feel in that. But again, the same thing with why I didn't want to punch the guy who was trying to start shit with me. It's like, cause it's like once the fury gets unleashed, it's just
like, sometimes it's easier to get the crowd back. They're already on your side. That's why I just like to hurt them so bad that I want to hurt them so bad that the crowd doesn't want to get back on my side. That's how much I want to hurt the heckler. I had a guy, I was in Mohegan Sun, and this guy yelled something, I don't remember what, and I went, "Nobody likes you, and this is why your kids don't call you." And
that's good.
3 minutes into the set, he was crying. And I like later the lady comes up to me. She goes, "Did you know he was crying?" I was like, "I didn't know." She was like, "You think that was like you hit him in the like?" I just took a random sniper shot in the dark, and it was like, "Oh no, it hit him right in the head." Like he literally was like, "Oh my god!" Like maybe this is why my kids don't call me back. And it's like, and you know what's kind of fun is that I think a lot of parents are worried that their kids aren't calling them enough. So it's like, I just hit him with the thing that he's probably the most sensitive about.
Yeah.
And it's, but I mean, I don't have too many meltdowns, but
yeah. Well, that's why I'm also, and I'm sensitive to like themed shows or like TV shows, because I saw this thing Canelo Rower posted about some like stand-up show that they're taping where basically it gives the audience the power to basically like gong a comic or like buzzer them or something. And I'm a little sensitive to theme shows where the idea is to somehow give the audience free will to torture the comedian.
Because they're stupid. They wouldn't be in the audience if they had these thoughts. That's like saying, it's like a math teacher trying to teach you and you go, this is dumb math. It's like, no, you just don't get it. You don't get it. That's the thing. If I'm a professional comedian, if they're professional comedians, they're doing this on a regular basis, doing well. If you don't get the joke, it's because you don't get it, and it's not for you, and that's not a bad thing. That's my big thing with like these like I do jokes on our podcast. It's mostly improv. You know, it's improvised. We're just kind of doing characters and we're doing things, and man, we take risks, or sometimes we're just saying things. It's like, fuck, that was kind of racist, you know, or that was kind of weird. But it was like, but we were laughing, we were having a good time. People know we're not. There's no malice behind it, and the people who laugh at it, it's like they get it. They get where we're coming from. Yeah. If you don't laugh, you don't get it. That's fine. Just move on. You know, it's like we're not hurting anyone. There is that argument. People go, "You're hurt. You're adding to it." No, we're not. It's not true, because if you don't listen, if you don't like it, you don't turn it on. So it's like, stop. Like, just let it fucking go. Like, that's just how I feel. It's like, if you just don't get it, because and that's okay if you don't get it. It's not your type of humor. Jokes, ironic, not to say like racist jokes, but like, because I believe I don't like racist jokes for one reason: they're hacky.
Yeah,
if you're doing a joke that is original, an original take. Yeah. I was one time watching some black guy do a joke, and he was like, "You white people smell like bologna," and I spit my water out. I'd never heard that before. It made me laugh. White people smell like bologna. Now, I know this guy doesn't hate white people. He just like, y'all smell like bologna. Fine. You know, and I'm not, and understand that on my podcast, we're not really doing racist jokes, but we do a lot of accents that could be, it's like, oh,
could be taken out of context easily.
But those accents are never like, oh, I'm this, I'm black, I eat watermelon or whatever bullshit. You know, it's like, oh no, that's just the accent I've heard, and then it's usually like, oh, this is some Martian who talks this way. You know, we try to go a couple layers above, so the jokes aren't hacky. It's just like, oh, no, this is just a new take. This is just some crazy character they're doing. Like I did a gay voice in the last episode, right? It's not about being gay, but this was it. And the character was actually this. It was my aunt. So the character is it was just this guy who was just doing a gay voice, and I just pretended it was my aunt, and the whole joke was about this person who was collects frogs in Kuwait. But the gay voice was just the one that hit me. And so, like, we're not talking about gay people, but that's just like a fun voice to do. And we added 3 layers of it's a woman who was in jail in Kuwait for collecting frogs. It's like, it's a stupid character. And so then some people might hear that voice and go, and it's like, there's just people who just don't get it. Yeah, I think I'm on a weird rant. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's so good. Well, that also plays into the not having to agree with somebody to find them funny, which I feel like that the overall opinion now, at least in my friend circle, is if I don't agree with you, then you can't be funny. But like I've never thought that, because I'm very content with that's a good joke. I don't agree with anything that you're saying, but good joke, which is also part of the art form as well, is to do the joke that is to people that don't agree with you.
You're not supposed to agree with me. I would go as to say is not that you're not supposed to agree with me. I'm supposed to be, as a comedian, I'm supposed to be telling you something you haven't thought of. 90% of the time, you're not gonna agree with it at first, and then you might go, oh, but I see where you're coming from. The goal is not to get you to think something, to change your mind. The goal is to get you to see where I'm coming from. That is what I want. That is my goal, is not for you to see why my why I believe in why I'm pro-life. I'm not pro-life, but I don't want you to see why I'm pro-life. I want you to understand why I would be. Come along that journey in my goofy journey and laugh, And it's like, we're not, this isn't a rally. This is my story. You're not supposed to have lived my life, but I want you to come on that ride. That's what that's about. Sorry, that's just my beliefs, and that's just what I do. That's not every comedian. But I did cut you off. I apologize.
Oh no, it's good. I'm
passionate.
I can see that, and I like that, and I know like you have, and because to me at least, I'll tell you my perspective, because I when I look at like guys like you or Joe List or Anthony DeVito or Brandon Ayer, like to me you are like everything that you guys are doing. I think me and a bunch of other people would love to be doing. So if you ever are at a point where you're just like you just feel like you're trying to like just win over like each club or booker in different cities, I think that's fucking awesome. And I would love to be at a point where I could just even get to a point where I could consistently like have a club that I could go to on a regular basis, because I don't even have that right now. That's why my whole idea is, again, like, get people like me through here, and then maybe they would come see me do stand up.
That's the best way. Dude, if you have 100 listeners to a podcast, that is not a good number for a podcast. That is still more than every bar show and most clubs in the city on a weekday.
That's what I started thinking about it. And I started thinking about like the consequentially somewhat disposable nature of what we do. Like these legendary shows that comedians talk about, and the venues are just gone.
Yeah.
That can go away so easily. And then it is just like the grand tradition of oral storytelling. It is just passed down from generations, and then eventually to the point where it's doubted if it even ever happened. So that's why I love doing stuff. And again, also, I feel like anyone who listens to this regularly, or anyone who listens to your show, they've got to like you if they're continuing to take space on their phones and time from their day to listen to you talk.
Do you know, people don't understand the value of time. Money means nothing. Dude, you know how much time you have left? You you can literally map out your time on Earth with how many podcasts you've listened to. It's like, I've lived 5,376 episodes of fucking, of Waking Up with Sam Harris or whatever stupid fucking shit.
Which translates to probably like 10 episodes of Joe Rogan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's a long show.
Yeah. So when you're asking people to listen to your podcast, you're asking a lot. You know, and then you try to be as funny as possible, and you try to be as good and just different as possible. But like, yeah, man, I really, every listener we have on our podcast, I feel like we have fought tooth and nail to have, and it shows. We don't have a huge following, but man, we have fucking people who've tattooed characters we've done on their chest, and we're like, Jesus, man, like,
that's fucking amazing.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to sound braggy. I'm just. But, I'm not. We don't sell out clubs, and we don't sell out rooms. We don't sell out anything. But, man, like, it means something to somebody, and that's important. You know what I mean?
It really is.
Yeah.
I think, and that's a kind of magical thing that I think it's maybe a little. It's easy to forget.
Yeah.
When you're just kind of in the grind of like, when's my next show? How do I make this joke work? So, were like DeVito and Ayer, when you started, did you guys like all start around the same time? I know you're from like the New York, New Jersey.
Well, you don't know my story with Anthony then, huh?
No, I don't think
so I'll just tell you.
I don't think I do.
I wouldn't imagine. I don't know. But so Brendan and I started, we just met Brendan at open mics. I went to high school with Anthony. Anthony DeVito and I went to Bloomfield High in New Jersey together. He was best friends with my best friends, and we had some classes together. We had like we were like, I was like always like, this guy gets it on the level I get it. Like we were like, oh no, we comedically are on the same page.
Yeah.
And then the last day of high school, it was like the senior boat ride. We became like best friends, literally like in one day. And then we kind of like just came to the city together. Did everything together, lived together. He met my wife. He's lived with my wife almost as long as I've lived with my wife. Literally in September, me and my wife moved in together. Not moved in together. We got our own place without roommates, and that was the first time in a 10-year relationship she's ever lived with just me and not Anthony as well. So it's like, yeah, Anthony's like, and I don't know how people get into comedy without a best friend. Like, he's a guy. Yeah, I mean, like, I've done jokes that he's thought was funny and no one else thought was funny. And I'm like, well, Anthony thinks it's funny, so I'm going to keep doing it. And eventually got it to work because I just have this one guy who just goes, nah, man, that's funny. Keep doing that. And I'm like, okay, so I do. And it bombed for like 3 months. And then one day, so I have this theory of comedy, right? If you're a comedian, actually, if you're anybody, if you think something's funny, it's funny. But the reason people aren't laughing is because it's in your brain. And now you've got to get it from your brain into people's heads. So they have to see what you're coming from. So I have a theory of comedy. The theory of comedy is if you believe something is funny, it's funny. But what your job as a comedian to do is to show people how that's funny, what you see. It is funny. Whatever. If it's a fart joke, people go, "Oh, it's not funny." It's like, no. If I laughed, that means it's funny. But sometimes it's just too difficult to get people to walk through your entire life to get people to see how it's funny.
Right.
So, even like cacky jokes, it's like, they're funny. But so like the goal as a comedian is to get people to see what you see. And that's the hard part. So that's why I'm like, yeah, every joke is funny. I think people would fight me on this, but I think it's true. It's if I think it's funny, it's funny. My job is to show you what I see. And that's the hardest part of comedy is to show people, like, think of like, how many, friends do like I can't think of anything. I just keep going to race, but like your friend does like a really offensive joke and you go, they're not racist. We go, well, why did I laugh? And you go, well, it's like, because they're not racist and it's an off-key thing for a person like that to say. But if that person just said that in the street, you go, fuck that guy, I hate that guy. That's not funny. And you go, but to go through the journey of like, no, this guy is a Mormon. He's never cursed in his life. He walked in a room and said the N-word. You have to see on why that's funny. You have to see almost that entire thing before that to get why that's funny in perspective. So, but a lot of that stuff you can't express. You can't show people. There's just a lot of other things to do. But to say it's not funny isn't true because it made at least one person laugh, and funny is subjective.
100%. I think that is part of what drives comedians crazy sometimes is because everything is so subjective. So you're just like, does this objectively not work? Is it not working for these rooms? Is it something I'm saying? It's like, it's like you're just like in a beautiful mind, just like scrolling everything out on the chalkboard.
Well, that was the thing with alt comedy for a while. With a lot of like alt comedy it was just another level. People who were sick of all the same comedy, they've seen it all. Yeah. And they want it out there, weirdness. And it's like you can't go to a New York comedy club and perform for a bunch of, people from Ireland dressed as a mattress. They might not get it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if you're in the New York comedy scene, you get why that's weird and funny because a comedian doesn't come on stage dressed as a mattress or whatever, which is an actual thing I saw Kristen Schaal do. She came out on stage at UCB with a mattress as a thing and did an entire 5 minutes on being a mattress, and it was fucking hilarious. It was great.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's spectacular, man.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is all like flawed thinking. This is,
yeah.
Well, who knows?
Well, yeah, we all are. Yeah, we all have slight variations on kind of the core ideas, and then it's basically like it's our own version of like debating like the Bible, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah.
Cool. So okay. So Anthony, that best friend is so
huge. It's
important.
crucial.
You need that kind of collaborator, or that guy to just be like, yeah, man, keep going.
You also need that guy who is on the same wavelength, because that's the thing I see with a lot of comedians is like they're hanging out with comics that don't get them, and it's like, yeah. I mean, that's good that you're friendly and cool, but don't bounce ideas by that person. You know what I mean? Just because, there were a ton of comedians when I started that were doing a lot better than me. And like they were, like the class up or whatever. Sure. And I would throw ideas by them and they wouldn't laugh. And I go, I guess it's not funny. It's like, no. That's just, they don't get you. So you need to go find the people who get you so that they can help with the minutia, with the setup isn't making enough sense. Yeah. But I know where you were going before you even started the joke because I get you. And then they help you clean up the setup and get people to see what you're trying to say. That's what Anthony was always very good with me for, because I talk fast and I forget out key parts to things, and I don't realize that people don't know what I'm talking about. And Anthony would be like, yeah, you got to understand. He's like my translator almost. And then he would help me like get that shit back.
Yeah. That's important. I have a guy like that. He's not a comic. He's my friend Leo, who listens to my podcast. He's sort of like my official, like unofficial, like go to. Like when I did my first like audition show at the comic strip back when they used to have a panel of comics be mean to you.
Yeah.
I called him afterwards. It's like, they're so mean.
Yeah.
Modi is so mean to me. I haven't seen him since that, but if I ever do, I'm like, hey, you really hurt my feelings like 8 years ago.
Yeah, that's so stupid.
Again plays into my thing of like I don't like shows that torture comedians. I think it's hard enough.
Yeah, it's stupid. I hate them because everyone's like, well, that's what comedy is. It's like, no. That isn't what comedy. I mean, yeah, sure, there is a sect of comedy of comedians who were brutally mean to each other, and sure, that was their thing. They're at the cellar table of us, and they're all fucking calling you a fag or whatever. It's like great, but there's also a bigger sect of comedians who are riffing with each other, helping each other get funnier, and punching each other up, and making each other do better. And you only shit on my thing. Is completely lost in translation. The people don't seem to understand is that cellar table, those guys who were shitting on each other, they loved each other. You know, like the roasts were all about shitting on the people you love. But then they started doing all these roast battles, and they were just like syncing people up who don't know each other. And I'm like, well, this is terrible. So then it's like, hey, I got to roast tomorrow. I just found out this lady's mother's retarded. I'm going to go after her. And it's like, yeah, no, why would you do that? You know, like,
right.
I can shit on Anthony because, again, he knows me so well that I can be like, your dad died because he chose it, because he hated you, or some stupid shit like that.
Sure.
And he knows that, oh, yeah, Greg loves me so much that coming out of his mouth is just a joke. And that's what people forget about the roasts. Roasts came from love. They didn't come from anger and hate.
Yeah, the one roast battle I did was someone I know, and we approached it like a pro wrestling match.
Yeah.
Like, it's not really about who wins. You want the battle to look good.
Sure, yeah, that's fun. I've never been I love that people are doing roasts, and I love people who are getting into them. And I'm constantly asked to do roasts, but it's like, no, it's not my thing, man. I'm not really into it.
Yeah.
Plus, it's all I don't like disposable shit. You know, if I'm going to work on something for a week, I want to use it for a month. I don't want to that's what's hard with like acting and auditions. Like you learn all these like lines for auditions, and then they go, okay, thank you. And it's like, I just put fucking 5 days, 8 hours a day into remembering this shit.
Yeah.
And now you're just like, okay, thanks. And you're like, what the fuck? It was a waste of my... But it's not a waste of time. It's all skill. It's all learning. It's all good. But, you know, I like it to write something for 8 hours and then, all right, let's take it to the next level and let's put it online. Let's have it, you know, I could do this joke on the road. I could do all this stuff. But it's better. That's why I'm not really a big topical joke guy either.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Like I started viewing, at around the same time I started like, you know, going to more like storytelling mics and trying to get better at long form. Around the time Twitter started getting popular, is that like it started again feeling so like temporary, and then like I started seeing like the same topical jokes like a few couple times. It just magnified the typical like comedian problems like tenfold. And again, I'm the same way. I kind of like, you know, working on a thing that has a little bit of shelf life to it, something that's gonna someone could listen to and still get some value out of years later. If something is, I like having, not that I'm immune to having projects, but it's just more to my speed. Interesting transition, because I want to talk about this as well, because you were part of the like writing team for, I think, a pretty seminal topical comedy event in the White House Michelle's White House Correspondence dinner.
Yeah, we wrote on that.
So tell me about how you came to be involved in that, because I remember Michelle when she was hosting the 11 o'clock at the pit.
Yeah.
And I think also the Monday at the Creek also. And now I just get a kick out of the fact that she is being called out by name by the fucking president.
Yeah, it's wild. And also like, I mean, I love Michelle. I've known Michelle for a long time. I was writing on her show, The Break, on Netflix. And it was like, she was like, oh, I'm doing the White House Correspondence dinner. And I was like, none of us gave a shit. I don't know. Me and Anthony didn't give a shit. We were like, oh, you know, we didn't realize it was a big deal or whatever. And Michelle was the only person who understood what was happening, right? So, like, she was like, and she was 99% of that. You know, like, maybe she had some lines that we wrote that she used. I had, like, one line that was in the thing, or two lines. I'm not really sure. I don't really remember. But she was like, hey, guys, because we were on the writing staff, and she was like, hey, you know, punch us up, any ideas, any jokes. We were just kind of doing all that. And then she kept being like, well, this is how smart she is, man. I love Michelle. She's so smart. She was like, we would write jokes like, and Kellyanne Conway looks like the fucking Crypt Keeper or whatever bullshit. And she was like, we cannot say anything about their looks.
Mm-hmm.
We can't do looks jokes.
Yeah.
And we were like, why? They all look so bad. In there.
Uh-huh.
She said, we cannot do them. We cannot. We will not. Right? I
Sure.
was like, all right, whatever. That's stupid. But I'm also coming from, I hate to be the guy that says this, but it's like, I don't know, male perspective. The men go after looks and no one seems to care. But she knew if she did, they would.
Mm-hmm.
And she wrote that joke about, I don't know if you remember it, but it was a joke about
the smoky eye
shadow.
Yep.
And she said she had beautiful smoky eye or something. And
yeah, she takes facts, burns Sarah Huckabee Sanders, she takes facts and burns them, makes the perfect smoky eye.
Exactly.
Perfect smoky eye.
Yes. So it was not an insulting joke at all.
Yeah.
But they knew what they were going to say before she even got on stage.
Yeah.
So they're like, so they got that joke and just kept being like, oh, she's insulting looks. And it was like,
it's like,
damn.
No, she's not.
She isn't. But they didn't care. No one cared.
Yeah.
But how fucked is that? But how, even just seeing like Michelle being like, she knew. She was smart enough to know what they would go after. So
yeah,
she didn't. And they were all mad because she was going after the media. And everyone made it a right versus left thing. And it was like, no. She's shitting on the media.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the shit that they just kind of went over. They all like, no one made, like, the last joke of the fucking set was about how, Michigan still didn't have clean water, or still had lead in the water or whatever. And they just breezed over that. No one seemed to care about but they wanted to be like, oh, she's making fun of her looks. It's like, no, you're making fun of her looks because you're the one saying they were the ones who were attacking her by defending her looks. Because it was like, no one talked. That's like, if like I walk, if you walked in and saw me and, you were like, what are they saying? You're not that fat. And I'm like, what? No one said I was fat. You're the one who's like defending, but that was never brought up.
Yeah.
It was not a joke of this, but you all had this stuff in your head that I was fat. So you came in trying to defend my fatness when no one was talking about my fatness.
Yeah.
Or whatever, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Because the joke, the joke, again, all the language directed towards how she looked is positive. And then the joke itself is about how she, which was just like straight up lying as the press secretary, in a, for all objective purposes, pretty easy to say that lady lied.
Yes,
in that job,
absolutely.
But people just sometimes I think people either just they have something on their mind and this might be a comment on like clickbait journalism. They have the thing they want to say, so that's what they're going to look for.
Yeah, that's all it is, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big problem that I as a liberal, I hate that I have a problem with what liberals do a lot of times, which is they'll defend minorities in a way that is like very condescending, and it's like, well, they need us, and it's like, no, they don't. Leave people, stop it. Like, stop. Now, I can't give you a specific. This is a very terrible thing to say because I can't give you a very specific. I can't give you a specific reason.
Mm-hmm.
But as a guy who grew up a block out of Newark, and I was like the only white guy, whatever. You'd have these guys who would come from. I was in the south end of town. One of my friends were Dominican and Puerto Rican, and then when you get to high school, it mixed with the north end, which is a wealthier part of town, and it was predominantly white.
Yeah.
And then you'd have these white guys or white girls a lot of times, whatever, and they'd be like, oh, it's okay that they don't do this. And I'm like, what the fuck are you saying? Like, you're the one saying that. You're the one. You're not looking at them as equal or people. You're looking at them as lesser than. That's a fucking problem. And that no one seems to see that that's happening. And it's very disconcerting. It's a lot of this. And of course, I'm not talking about like, rights or rights. And I'm not talking about civil rights in any way.
Sure,
I'm just
of
talking
course.
about like a lot of this like, oh, it's,
Yeah.
I'm a savior. It's like, what? You're not a savior. You're a fucking jerk. You're a person who's never met real people. I don't know. I don't want to get into that. It's all
yeah, I understand completely. What I will say, and what I think not enough people do, but I think something that I'm working to be better at as far as and doing a podcast helps is just listening.
Yeah,
because people I don't think listen very much because everyone's got their own shit in their head, and then it's just and then anything that sort of like agitates that part of the brain that happens. So okay.
Sorry. Also, real quick too, it's like
Sure.
my big thing with that stuff is like I don't really shit on conservatives because I'm not a conservative.
Right.
I shit on liberals because I'm a liberal. And it's like we need to be getting our shit together. Like I'm not saying for the presidency or for the thing, but it's like we should be self-policing. It's like I'm not going to throw a rock at the other side because I don't care what they're doing. I'm trying to fix us, but we got to fix our own. We got to fix our friends, the people I'm in immediate contact with. And it's like, if you're being a hypocrite, I'm going to call you out because I love you and I want us to all be right and not whatever. You get what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. So you were working on the Netflix show before you started helping Michelle with the correspondence thing. So
yeah.
So tell me how the Netflix show you came to be writing on the show, and tell me about about that process.
Oh, well, so the Netflix show was I had done a million packets. Packets are the things it's the application. You have to write a bunch of jokes.
Yeah.
And you do them and you never get any feedback and you just think you're the worst.
And are you being asked to write those, or do you just have one ready? And
sometimes people ask. Sometimes people will go. My manager would send one to me and be like, "Hey, there's accepting submissions," but no one's looking at it. They have friends they want to look at. And you'd write, you submit, and then you hear nothing back. I did hear back from one packet beforehand, which was a show called Friends of the People. It was Josh Rabinowitz and Kevin Barnett and a bunch of those guys. Jermaine, those guys, love those guys. And one of the guys, Rabinowitz, called me and he was like, "Hey man, the showrunner wants to tell you that he loved your packet. We can't hire you because you have zero experience, and they're gonna go with this guy who does. But he really, really loved your stuff and just wanted to tell you." And that was the first piece of that kept me going for 3 years. Just that one compliment. So Michelle got the show, and she was like, "I want you and Anthony to submit. You have to submit." And I went, "Okay, I need to submit for this because it will get looked at."
Right.
This is the first time I know that someone will at least read it and understand it. So I canceled everything I had for a week because I think I had a week in advance. I worked my ass off on it. Anthony worked his ass off on it. And then I was also opening for Michelle a little bit at the time. So we're on a train ride to D.C., and I get a call. I'm sitting next to Michelle on the Acela. It was some train. It was whatever. And we're sitting.
Taking it.
Yeah, I love the Acela. It's a real great train ride.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So I'm sitting next to Michelle, and my manager calls me, and I go, it's just back. I sent it to voicemail, and Michelle goes, "Oh, yeah. After this, I'm going to tell you. I have to tell you the interview."
Okay.
Before, let me just go back to the interview because the interview was one of the greatest things I've ever done in my life.
Okay.
I have had nothing but bad interviews. Industry interviews are the worst. I had one where I walk in, I was taking a so I'm sorry, man. This might be a little bit long.
It's all good. It's all good. I got time. I answered that phone call. So,
so I had this interview for it was for True TV. They bring me into True TV. 5 minutes before the interview, I go to the bathroom. I come out of the bathroom. The two people are staring at me, and I go, "Oh my god, am I late? Oh my god, am I late because I just took a shit? Am I ruining my career because I took a shit?" And the lady goes, "We actually don't have the power to ruin your career." And I went, "Yeah, I was just joking. Sorry. Oh boy, this is already awkward." And then we're walking, and I go, "Oh man, that joke was so awkward." I was like, "Maybe I should tell a joke so I'm funny." Just being sarcastic. She goes,
"Sure.
If you'd like to tell a joke, you can." And I went, "Oh my god, this is going bad, right?"
Right.
So then we get down, and I go, they're like, what do you want to tell us about us? I go, "What can you tell us about yourself?" And I went, "Well, I'm the funniest comedian in New York." And she goes, "Funniest comedian in New York? Write it down. Funniest comedian in New York."
Like she works in entertainment but can't pick up
any of it.
Joking.
And she wrote that down. That's how you know the funniest comedian in New York? They come up and tell you? Yes, no one. I was like, this is wild. So then I go, they go, "Oh, why would you like to work for what did I say what's the name of that? IFC. It was IFC.
IFC.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she goes, "Oh, what do you like about IFC or something?" And I go, "I don't know. This is a dumb joke," but I went, man, just can't wait to see Brock Lesnar get back in the ring. It's a UFC joke.
Yep.
She goes, "The rapist?" And I went, "What? Hang on. What are you talking about? I can't let this
She's
slide."
talking about Brock Turner.
Brock Turner. And I went, "Oh my God, no, I was not. I was trying to make a wrestling reference. is this, or can I just go home? I just want to go home. I don't want to do this. And I go, let's just stop. I was like, what are you looking for? And she goes, we're looking for females who can create content for females. And I went, what am I doing here? What the fuck am I doing here? Why do we do any of this, right? So that's the meeting that I had before this. I get the meeting for the break. I walk in, and I have all these bits, right? I walk in, I meet the people. This guy, Dan Powell, he's great. It's got Christine Angle, they're great. And Christine, and I go, Dan, we're asking him, I'm riffing. I have jokes where if a joke doesn't go over, I walked over to the window, and I went, well, I guess I'll see myself out, as if like to jump out the window.
Sure.
They're just all these dumb bits, right? And I look at Dan at the end. He goes, you have any questions for me? And I go, yeah. Are those the shoes you're going to wear at the Emmys? And he goes, well, I mean, I have other shoes. And then Nangle she just starts dying. Everyone got it. And he goes, oh, Dan goes, oh, my God, I'm so sorry. I really thought it was a joke. I'm sorry, I was in another place. And I was like, so then that's the interview, right?
Yeah.
I walk out. I'm like, I had a fun time, whatever. So then I'm sitting on the Acela with Michelle, and my phone goes to, I see my manager calls. I send it to voicemail, and she goes, no, answer the call. And I went, nah, talk to her later. And she goes, no, answer the call. And I went, oh my God, right? Now, you have to understand this. Before this moment in my career, I'd been making $6,000 to $7,000 a year, and that's all I was making. I mean, like maybe a little more cash. I don't know. I was suffering, just paying rent, doing what I can to live. I call back. Becky's like, you got the job working with Michelle. And this is this is a gig. This is fucking a ton of money. They pay a ton of money for writing gigs. And I look at Michelle, I'm like, well, why didn't you tell me? She was like, well, because we had lawyers. We had to do all these things. And I wasn't sure that if any of that had gone through. So I actually couldn't tell you. So the whole time I'm sitting next to Michelle, she knew I had gotten the job, but couldn't tell me. So then I get the call, told her. And then I walked in the bathroom and I fell on the Acela right in the floor by accident. It was just like a trip. And then I got up and I went, I do this all the time. And anyway, that's how I got the job. So then, I think this is kind of what I think you might be asking. Now, I could be wrong about this, but I'm 90% sure. When we did, the name of the show was The Break.
Yes, The Break with Michelle Wolf. It was on Netflix.
Yes. It was supposed to be a break from all of the political, all that shit.
Sure.
It was just going to be a funny first comedy show. Then she did the White House Correspondence Dinner, and they were like, oh, no. We got to
be political.
This is like, these are the people, you've rallied up a fucking thing. You got to do this.
Right.
And we did it. And I got to be honest, man, I am so proud of that show. We worked really, really hard, and I thought there was a lot of stuff. We did a lot of funny things, and I liked all the people there, and it was great. But Netflix also had like weird issues. Like, I love Netflix, but they had like, they were our show we would record on Thursday, and it would go up on a Sunday. And you're doing political. We would be like, we would record the show on Thursday, and then the Daily Show would come out, and we're like, I hope they're not doing our jokes. And then Samantha Bee Show would come out, and we're like, we hope they don't do the jokes we just wrote. Because there's so, like, there's a bunch of, it's a lot of parallel thinking there. And so we were the last people to get the news shit, essentially, because our show's coming out on Sunday.
Yeah. And
by Sunday, all of that shit, people were sick of it. They'd already heard every other one of those shows hit those topics.
Right.
So it was like, we really wanted Netflix to try to like get us up on Thursday or Friday, but they just couldn't because of their format. That's not my bag. I don't know.
Oh yeah, no. And then also the format of your show, and I agree, there was very funny stuff on that show. The very like special episode, that episode that you did, like kind of, I think it was kind of playing off the like, we're going to talk about some important stuff. I thought that bit was
the abortion. What was this? I'm not sure. They're very special. It's so funny because I worked on it and wrote the same thing with the Correspondence Dinner. I remember nothing. I remember like two things. I remember we had Tim Capella, who did a saxophone thing, which was awesome. And then I don't know. I remember we got Dig In every day. That's kind of what I remember.
Yeah,
most of it's gone.
Yeah, and then also, and I feel like political, especially in now, moves even faster than it used to.
Yeah.
Where it's like can we live stream this?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's and then also to kind of carve out your own thing in that space. It's a challenge, but I commend you for doing it. And
commend. I mean, I was getting a paycheck. It was great. Like I could be writing about fucking turds. I was like, I don't know, man. I'm allowed to live now because of that show. I was able to get married. I was able to get my own fucking place. It was like it really was leveled me up mentally. It gave me self-esteem that I always think I'm stupid. I'm like, oh, you're dumb. I had like a lot of learning disabilities growing up. I was in like special classes. They wanted to put me in like a special school. So I've always had this feeling that I was dumb. And then that show, you have to, working for Michelle, she's the hardest working person in this fucking business, man. I'm not joking.
Oh no, I believe you.
So you there was no sink or swim. There was swim. You're gonna swim. There is no sinking.
Yeah.
And so like it showed me that I was able to do a lot of things I didn't think I was able to do. And that's what's sad for a lot of comedians is that a lot of people don't get. I think a lot of comedians just have low self-esteem, and so they're not going to try. They're not going to take risks. They're not going to do things because because you don't know. But you need to be put in that position to rise to the occasion. And I was given that opportunity, which was great. So
100%. Just another example, because I don't know how close you and Michelle were like before this, but just again having that person to say, no, you're good.
Every
Even
day,
if it's just that one fucking person,
dude. Every day at the show, we would go into Michelle's office just to check on her, and she'd go, "Greg, you're doing great." And like it was such a nice thing that you would do. But also we were checking on her because we were like, "Hey, are you okay?" Like we would be there for like 12 hours, and then we would be done, and then we'd go in a room to see how she was, and she'd be on a treadmill running, and she's like, "All right, just gotta go through more of these scripts," and you were like, "Fuck, man!" Like it kind of was sad too, because you're like, "Jesus, I don't know that I can ever or want to ever work this hard." Like it's insane what the amount of work she puts into all of that stuff. So
oh yeah, like especially if you're going to get in that machine, and then also, and this is probably sexist of me to say, but I also feel like women have to work harder just because of the nature of society right now, even though it's slowly starting to turn.
Yeah.
And that's something also like I've noticed trying to do this show is that I have a harder time booking women. Like it's always more there's more scheduling involved and rescheduling than other times. And yeah, when I like even my fiance, I'm just like, she describes her day to me and I'm just like, I'm exhausted just listening to you talk.
Yeah.
I don't have the I don't think I have capacity.
Can I throw you an analogy to women and men in comedy? And this could be sexist and weird and shitty, but I'm going to say it and I'll take a risk, and maybe it's bad, but I never said this out loud before. Okay. But the way I've always looked at snowboarding and skiing is the way I look at women and men in comedy. Skiing was always, it's very easy to get started and very hard to become great. Snowboarding is very hard to start, but it's easier to get great at it. Like it's once you get it, I think it's much easier to do. I've kind of felt very similar in the way with women, is that like right now in comedy, it's easier to get a start as a female, not even as a female, as a minority, as something that is different. They will grab you, but to be great at it, it makes it much more difficult that way because they want to push you, because we're like, right now it's like, oh, women are great. Let's give women in comedy. This isn't in Home Depot. This is in comedy. You know what I mean? But because of that, and this is what I think Michelle does so great, is that she doesn't compare herself to women. She compares herself to comedians. She wants to be a great comedian. And this is like weird, I guess, that we're having this conversation, two guys, but who gives a shit?
We are the prototypical example of the problem. But I think I'm hip to what you're putting out there.
Yeah. So like I think that like a lot of people who will get that giant push up front, it's easier to sit back and go, well, I don't need to be great. I got this push, and then they die out. Whereas the opposite, being as a white straight male in comedy, it's gonna be harder. I know it's not harder, but at least in my life, to get someone to initially look at you, because I look like everyone else. There's a million people who look and sound like me, so I have to be. I need to look. You need to look at me and go, "That's not a white straight male. That's Greg, his stepdad." You know, you need to see something more to look special, okay? Because aesthetically, I am the same as you. You and me walk into a room. Who are they going to pick? They're going to flip a coin. You know what I mean? But once you get that hook, it's easier to stay in, because you know if it takes you a long time, you're going to have to work harder to get there. You know what I mean? Like once you're part of it, and then you see other people who are already up there and they're going to keep you there. Whereas a minority is, or not a minority, I don't know, something that is based on look alone, you're going to have to not listen to people. You're going to have to work. You have to compare your material. You can't just ride it out because then you'll get a bunch of stuff up front and quick, but then you'll die out unless you compare yourself to the hardest working comedians. And that's not race or anything related. It's just are you seeing? You kind of pick what I'm saying? Or does it make enough sense?
I am because there's a, and I'm going to think really hard about the way I'm saying it. It might be right now because of the way the industry is shifting, and
it's a good thing.
And
great
culture
thing.
is shifting as large, which I do feel is positive. You can maybe get an initial look, or initial like attention or interest quicker or easier than you could before. But then it's a matter of, it's like it's like hopping on a treadmill. Once you're on, you got to
Yes.
work your ass off to stay on it.
Also, every single comedian thinks they're great and a god, and they deserve everything, right?
Yes.
So if someone walks up to you and goes, "Hey man, I'm gonna make you something," most comedians go, "Oh, of course you're picking me. I'm great," right? But then when you think about it, and then you take that person and you put them in a thing, and then you go, "Okay, now write me fucking write me a 30-page outline or whatever or something." It's not going to be as good as the person who's been doing it a long time or whatever, right? So that person needs to check their ego and go, "Yeah, I got that initial look." Like Michael Che is a great example of a guy who's super funny, and he blew up very fast. Like his shorts, he went quick, but maintained and stayed there and kept working and is funny and works hard. Michelle, same thing. They grabbed her, they put her up, and she worked, and she stayed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then you have a lot of guys who I'm not going to name because I don't even know their names anymore, who they were like, "Hey, look at this. He's a thing." And then
sort of like
die out.
It's the difference between Bo Burnham and every other YouTube star.
Yes.
That's the example I make.
YouTube star is the greatest analogy that's much safer to talk about because it's not race or anything related, but they have 1 billion views, and you go, "Hey, we're going to make you a thing." And you go, "Well, what do you have to offer?" Now you got to stay here. Bo Burnham I didn't even realize he was a YouTube star.
Yeah, he initially got big because he posted, I don't know if you listen to any of his stuff, but a lot of the songs on his first EP and his first album where he's playing the piano wearing the party hat were on YouTube, and he's just recording them on like a average quality camera in his bedroom, because I think he was in high school at the time. Those got reposted somewhere and got all these views, and then he got this Comedy Central special, but then he had to write another special, and then, but he did it, and then he wrote another special, and it was unique and different. It was like more of a theater piece, and it was funny.
Yeah.
And he's incorporating music, so he clearly had the goods. And Barack Obama said 8th Grade, the movie he wrote and directed, it's one of his favorite movies last year.
I love that movie.
So good.
It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a good example of a guy who. A phrase I keep in my head is luck is preparation meets opportunity. So you can get the opportunity, but then you also have to be prepared for it. And then also I think, a couple years in those late shows or bar shows or that something I said to Air, that wall of apathy at open mics, you need to gives you kind of the equipment and the tools for when that situation happens.
Yeah, I used to always say it's we're all in this gym together. And every now and again, someone comes downstairs and says, "Hey, man, I'm going to pick one of you guys." They pick one of us, and they go up. Now, the thing is, if you're not in the gym, sometimes they pick people who've only been in the gym for an hour.
Yeah.
And they go upstairs. It's like, okay, but you're going to have to keep lifting weights when you're up there. But to everyone else, it's like, well, no one's come to pick me. It's go, yeah, but even though they're not picking you, you've been lifting weights for 5 years. When they pick you, you're going to be fucking strong.
Right.
And there's a lot to that. I think there's a lot to that. Hey, look, it might not be happening now, but you just keep getting better and better and better. And then when that guy comes in, he might go, "Who's this fucking rip dude over here? How have I not looked at him? Wow, he's been fucking working abs for 7 years. Guy's got a fucking 30-pack, or whatever."
100%. The same way I think about bands. That there was, I listen to, my favorite music is like pop punk or like metalcore, like that kind of.
Yeah, me too.
That kind of
I love a lot of
that kind of stuff. So I don't know if there's this there was this big trend for a while on YouTube and all those Punkos Pop compilations where bands would cover a big pop song, and get a big hit from that cover. But a lot of those bands are nowhere now.
Yeah, where's Me First and the Gimme Gimmes now?
Because
actually, I don't know.
They should do it. Well, NoFX are still around. I don't
Sure.
know what Me First are doing, but there were all these metalcore bands that didn't have the songwriting chops to, after they maybe got that initial interest from that cover, to keep people with their original stuff.
Yeah.
And that's something I think about all the time, is that there might be a slow road, but I think it's ultimately worthwhile when you do get to where you're going. And then also just remembering the joy of creating the thing.
Yeah, love the now, love the creating, control the things you can control. Like you can control writing a joke, you could control, like your social media. You can't control if someone gives you an HBO special. You can't control that stuff. So control and use those things as your goals. Ari Vakitas was this improviser. He was a real great guy. When I first came to the city, man, he just sat me down and had lunch with me, which was so, thinking back, it's like, Jesus Christ, it was very nice of him to do that. But he gave me a great analogy. He was like, some people take the elevator, some people take the stairs. If you take the elevator, when you get to the top, you're not going to be as strong as the guy who walked up 18 flights of stairs, or whatever. I was like, that's really very true. So that's that thing of like, if you're in, you take the elevator, make sure but if you take that elevator and you just fucking keep pounding away, don't take the fact that, you're great, I'm great, that ego, because you'll die.
Yeah.
You'll die. So you just got to always hate yourself always hate yourself. You got to be happy.
Yeah. Just always feel that you can do that. Maybe there's more work to do.
I disagree with that, but to an extent. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I believe that it's set goals, say the goals, right? So if there's always more work to do is a problem, because then you're never going to live your life and you're never going to be happy. And every time you take a break, you're going to be like, well, if I was working now, I'd have it. But if you set yourself a goal where you say, I'm going to write for 2 hours or 1 hour or 3 hours every single day, it's consistent. You do it every day. You will continually get better. And you're giving yourself time to be like, okay, I'm off. I wrote for 3 hours. I wrote for 2 hours. I can go eat lunch. I can spend some time with my wife. And dude, you know how much time I've been sitting with my wife, sitting there looking at my watch, like, I gotta get back to work. I gotta get back to work. And it's like, that's not a life to live. So you have to and look, if you have a lot of deadlines or if you have a lot of things, you might have to give yourself more time. You might have to say, okay, for this day, I'll do 5 hours, 6 hours or whatever, or however much. I'm just throwing out numbers because I don't want to discourage people who are listening who are like, well, I only work for 45 minutes. Look, work for what you can work for, Be honest with that time. And then give yourself, comedy is 90% life, man. You have to live your life. You can't sit in front of a computer for fucking, you can't be, and you'll never get, it's too much to set yourself up for.
That's I'm really glad that you said that. Those are the two healthy ways of approaching it, I think, on either side. So I'm glad you corrected me there. So thank you for that.
It wasn't really correcting. There's a thing that I went through that for a very long time, where I was just sitting here being like, the greatest advice anyone gave me was some really good advice someone gave me was, they were like, how much do you want to write a week? And you go, how much do you want to write a week? I said, I want to write for an hour every day. And he goes, okay, how much do you write a week? And I was like, I don't know, 10 minutes for real? And he goes, okay, so take the median of that, take the middle, do the average, and try to do that and do that. And then you extend it. And that's when I first started. And now I just, now I write an insane amount every day just because I'm addicted to it. But at some point, I notice I'm sitting at my computer for 3 hours and nothing's getting done. Well, what am I doing? Well, get up and leave. So I get up and I leave and I go for a walk and I think, or I spend some time with my wife, or I'll fucking whatever. Because it's now I'm just sitting at a computer doing nothing. It's like, that's not writing. But the first step is to get yourself to sit at that computer, because even that is very difficult. Even to sit and open the computer. Step one, that's the goal. Do it. Sit down. My first goal was to just open my computer for 45 minutes a day. And I did that. I checked Facebook for 45 minutes. But then it became 3 minutes of that 45 minutes was writing. And then eventually you get to a time where the 45 minutes of that 45 minutes is work.
Yeah.
And but set yourself a little, not you, I guess I'm talking to the comedian I believe is listening to this and saying, how do I become a comedian?
I'm listening to it too. This is helpful for me to hear.
I don't know. No, I just, I think that, like, set yourself real goals and attainable goals and do those goals. And then the next week, another big thing for comedy that people don't do is you need to set up goals, you need to set up achievements, and you need to look at them, right? You need to say, these are the things I want. And then here's a list of the things I've done, right, to this year.
Yeah.
And the things you want, I had a list of, it was like 30 things. And in that year, I didn't get one of them. But the achievements, I ended up writing down every achievement. And it was like 16 things I achieved that were not on that goals list. So when the year was over, I went, I didn't get any of these things I wanted to do. But look at the things I did do, right? And then all of a sudden, 1 year, 3 years later, I crossed out all of those achievements came in like 2 weeks of each other. And it was just like, tick, 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 tick. And it was like, holy shit. But every comedian goes, I don't have anything. But if you have that achievements board, you look at that and you go, no, these are the things I have. These are the things I did. I am progressing. I am doing stuff. It's very important. It's very important for the low self-esteem comedian that we all are.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I think that's good. Those are some good words of wisdom. So is there anything on that board that you want to do next? What's the next project?
It's weird. I'm actually going through like a transitional thing because for me, it's always been late nights that I wanted to do. I'm doing comedy for fucking 19 years or some shit, and I've never had a late night. No one responds to those emails.
Mm-hmm.
And I think and they don't really even do much. So I think I'm done trying to get that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm okay with that. So so I think but it's also like we all want this late night set. And we all know that you look at the views, like 1,200 people look at it. And then you look at Instagram and it's like, well, I've gotten videos that have more than 1,200 likes.
Yeah.
Why don't I need that? You know? So it's being ahead of that and doing other things, putting up more YouTube, and I'm writing a lot more scripts, and I'm a story, like I've always been a comic book guy and a movie guy. So I'm trying to get those written out now. And I finally believe that I can do it. So I'm actually doing it now, which is like a huge achievement for myself.
That's great, man.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I know. I definitely know you're gonna finish it, and I look forward to seeing what that is.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think. Yeah, yes, I will. We will. I am. We are. Okay. Sorry.
Excellent. No, I think it's great, man. Because I have like the way I have like my shorter term projects, stuff like this that I can do like week to week, and then I have like my more medium term projects, things that are a little more involved, and I got my long term things I can do bit by bit. That's good to have that. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. We all have to have. You're not in competition with anybody in comedy. You're in competition with yourself. So it's like, set yourself with these things you want to do, and then do those things, and then I don't know, fucking smile, sit down in your chair, and be happy that you're alive. You get fucking before you were born, it was infinity, and then after you die, it's infinity. You get 80 years in the middle of infinity.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like enjoy the time you are here, because you don't get a lot of it at all. I know that that's hacky to say, but it's like, really think about. I'm so happy right now that this is the time in the universe, because this is the only time in the universe that I'm alive in all of infinity. So, I should be happy that's happening right now.
I think that's a great way to close this. Thank you. That's great, man. Thank you.
This is crazy. This thing I think I've ever said. I don't know.
I appreciate you coming over.
Oh,
Greg.
yeah. Thanks for having me, man. That was really fun.
Thank you so much, dude. Appreciate it. Okay, folks, that's our show. If you want to check out Greg's podcast with Anthony DeVito and Brendan Eyre, please check out the Rad Dudecast wherever you get your podcasts. And Greg's comedy album is also available now, The Amazing Greg Stone. And I want to also give a shout out to my supporter at the awesome producer level, Mary Beth Mooney. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate the fact that you would support me on Patreon. And if you want to hear your name as well, you can check out the rewards at patreon.com/awesomedisaster. Even if you can't contribute, I appreciate that you're listening. And any shares of the show or the Patreon on social media are greatly appreciated. So thank you very much. You can follow me on Twitter at Comic Will Carey. You can also rate and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Every little bit to help other people learn about the show is greatly appreciated by me. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I will see you guys next week between Awesome and Disaster. Take care, everybody.